So our topic is Droughts in Agriculture in Developing Countries by Jacob, Jackson, and Mateo, and we're posting our conclusion because it's not great. So the drought is not good at all. It left 110 dead in 2 days, which is way too many, and it should not be happening like that. Additionally, it leaves 1 in 5 people homeless. So, and this is because they're looking for food and water, so they don't have time to get home and look for that. Additionally, only 1/3 of the population is literate. So if they do move somewhere to get out of the droughts, most of them won't be able to get a job and succeed, and even less have available drinking water. So there are basically 3 causes for this. The main one is the lack of rainfall. Most of the people rely on rainfall for their water supply and farming, but since there's no rainfall, they can't get it. And the warlords and rulers and government, they're taking the rest of the water from the aquifers, and the little aquifers that the actual citizens have are not there anymore, and like 5 to 6 are dried up. Additionally, the changing climate is not helpful. This dries up the water faster, and more falls precipitation and not snow, so it is not held and it just runs off. The final one is the ENSO El Nino Southern Oscillation, which changes the little good water that they have into warm, nutrient-poor water, so they don't have any good water. This leads to reduced farming, so that loses their main source of food. Additionally, they can't help and sustain their livestock because they don't have any water or food to sustain them and feed them so they can grow up and then they can eat them. And then, as we'll go into later, the government failure is also not helping. It leads to a big problem, and they can't sustain themselves. They can't sustain themselves during the drought, and it leads to a bunch of other problems.
So the question that we decided to research should policies be implemented in order to mitigate the effects of droughts in Somalia? And the reason this question is important is there's mainly 3 reasons. Is because their economy is really weak due to a lot of years of another problem is their government is not centralized at all. It's very weak, which led to their weak economy, meaning that after the droughts, there's no economic backing to help them recover from it. And lastly, like on the whole, Somalia doesn't have any plans in any of its cities or towns or major areas of residence to recuperate after droughts. So whenever there's a drought in Somalia, which happens quite often because of its geography, it's very effective. And this graph shows the inflation rate in Somalia. There was a drought that happened in early April of 2019. You can see that the inflation rate spikes because their economy is so weak and they have no backing.
So one solution is to double humanitarian aid throughout the country, as well as focus more on the people as a whole, not just state building projects, because the people are in a vulnerable situation due to the lack of government. And this is beneficial because the US and UN, they have the resources to spare to help Somalia. However, the UN and the US are worried that Somalia is becoming too dependent on their help, and as well as that the warlords, they're taking the resources given and using it for their own benefit, while the people in Somalia are just getting poorer and more desperate. Another solution is by mitigating the impacts of drought, is to conserve current water and use it responsibly. So this is the root of all drought reduction and sets a good foundation to build on. However, clean water is in a great demand, and it is hard to conserve, especially in the climates like this. It's very dry in Somalia, so it's hard to conserve the water. Lastly, we can reach out to certified financial planners to help set a plan. You have to implement a plan to have good results, and as Jackson was saying, there's no real plan set, so the future of Somalia is kind of hangs in the balance. And this would be helpful because it helps before droughts. It helps them create a stable before and after a drought hits. However, the warlords, they don't want a government. They still want the area to be weak, because this allows them to have the most control over the area and stay powerful. Ethan Swenson's not here, so there's no conclusion.
Well, let's see the conclusion. Let's see.
Do you want me to read it?
That's the problem, it's not the conclusion. Okay, preparedness policies.
And this is the big one.
In your conclusion, what you need to do is say, of your solutions, which do you think is the most important or would work to help the victims of the drought the most? Probably humanitarian aid. That's what you need to say in your conclusion. You don't give a summary of everything you said.
Okay.
So you need to get Ethan in on that, okay? Great job.